How's it going, everybody? CJ here, back with another video. We're doing our first thoughts today. We got Nymris, Oona's Trickster, one of the new commanders from Commander Legends. Let's go. Spoiler season started. And so, if you guys enjoy my content, remember, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Comment down below if you're building Nymris or if you're putting her in a deck. And if you are, let me know. If you're building her, let me, or him, I'm not really sure. But if you're building them, then comment down below if there's any cool tech cards I didn't mention, or if there's any cool ideas that I gave you that you're going to use, because that makes me feel happy. If you want to support the channel or buy any of the cards that I talk about here, TCG Player affiliate link is down below. Buy your cards through there, and it helps the channel. Or you can directly support the channel via Patreon. If you do, you get to join the Discord and stuff. You get to play games with us sometimes. And if you want to play games with us, we got a giveaway going on. Woo! You can win to both be inside of a game on spell table with us, which is going to be featured on the channel in our gameplay series, CJDH. And you can win this dope playmat, an Elder Dingus Highlander playmat. I'll sign it for you too. Isn't that awesome? I think it's pretty awesome. But let's hop into this now. So Nymris, Oona's Trickster. There's two different ways I can really see building this deck. One of them being Fairy Tribal, and one of them being like Flash Tribal. There's going to be a lot of cards that carry over from one to the other, because there's a lot of really good flashy fairies, and there's a lot of good flash synergy cards because of fairies. There's a lot of good stuff that will go on both sides. So first, we're going to talk about Fairy Tribal. Some of the cards that you would probably want to play for Fairy Tribal would include like Bitter Blossom. You got Fairy Conclave, which is a land which turns into a fairy, which is kind of cool. You can also throw in like Secluded Glen, which is another fairy-based land. Fairy Formation, which you can make a lot of fairies with. Fairy Harbinger, which when it enters the battlefield, you get to search your library for a fairy and put it on the top of your library, which is nice. You just go grab the best fairy in your deck. And that can also grab your Fairy Tribal cards. So there's a couple instants and sorceries that I'll be talking about that this can fetch, which is really cool. There's like Fairy Trickery, for example. That's a Fairy Tribal instant that's a counter spell, so you can go and fetch that if you want to. Nectar Fairy. That's a fairy that gives lifelink until end of turn. That's not too bad. Notorious Throng. This card's really cool. It's 4 mana. It was actually in the Zendikar Rising Commander deck. I didn't realize that. It's 4 mana, or 7 mana with Prowl, and you get to create a bunch of fairies, and you can possibly take an extra turn. So that seems like a win-win for this deck. We got Oona, Queen of the Fae. Just a good way to make a lot of fairies. Pepper Smoke. This card it's an instant speed. You can target creature gets -1/-1. So you can just kill something small, but you get to draw a card if you have a fairy. So it's a cantrip that can kill something small. It's not great, but I mean, at least it cantrips. Scion of Oona. This card is disgusting. One of the best cards in the deck, probably. Like, this is what you're going to grab off Fairy Harbinger, most likely. It's got Flash, so it works in both style decks. Flying, other creatures you control, other fairies get +1/+1, and other fairies have Shroud. Great card. We got Silvergill Dowser. So you can tap that to like nerf some big creature to stop a big attack. Spellstutter Sprite, good counterspell creature, good counterspell fairy based on the number of fairies you control. It's a cool card. Thieving Sprite enters the battlefield, reveals X cards from their hand, or X number of fairies you control, and you choose one of them and discard that card. So you can you're typically going to be able to see like most of the cards in a player's hand and get rid of one of their best cards. So it's solid. We got Violet Paul. I never knew this card existed. It's a tribal instant. It's a fairy card. It's a 5 mana destroy target non-black creature, but you also get a 1/1 fairy into play. So it's a tutorable kill spell with Fairy Harbinger, which is very nice actually. Like if you're having a lot of trouble with a certain creature, you can tutor this up and kill it. And it also gets you a fairy, so it's on theme. But 5 mana is a lot of mana. Stolen by the Fae. good bounce card that gets you a ton of fairies. Glenelendra Liege gives blue creatures and black creatures +1/+1 that you control. So, and it's also a fairy, so that's also very on theme. It's a good lord. Nightshade Schemers. It's got kinship, and so that's at the beginning of your upkeep. You look at the top card of your library. If it shows a creature type, you may reveal it. If you do, each opponent loses 2 life. You're gonna have a lot of fairies, so might as well. I mean, you'll be flipping into fairies, just negging your opponents for 2, which is good. It's a solid, very, very solid card. Also knowledge exploitation, because a lot of fairies tend to be rogues, so that card just works very well in the deck. Prowl is just a good mechanic, so any Prowl cards kind of fit into this deck. Next I'm going to be talking about more just fairies. These are less tribal-y fairies, just like solid fairies. There's Cloud of Fairies, which is essentially a free fairy. Fairy Artisans, which creates cool tokens of whatever your opponents play. Fairy Macabre, that's you can discard it and exile 2 cards from 2 target cards from graveyard. So there's like say someone has like an Uro in the graveyard, you can just discard Fairy Macabre and exile it. Not too shabby. And it's also something that you can tutor up with Harbinger, so that's cool. Fairy Vandal, a fairy that just keeps getting bigger when you draw cards. Yeah, Latchkey Fairy. It's got Prowl. If its Prowl cost is paid, then you draw a card, which is cool. Brazen Borrower, of course. Same thing with like Hypnotic Sprite. Both of these are fairies. Fairies that also have a spell attached to them, so they're also fetchable, and they're also just very on theme. Cloud Seeder. I don't remember what this one does, but it does something like making fairies. It taps to make fairies. Did I just like spell it wrong? What did I just do? Cloud Seeder. Cloud Seeder. You can discard a card and put a 1/1 fairy into play. So yeah, it's just a way to make fairies, but it's not a great way because you are discarding cards. If you get mana flooded, it's a good outlet for discarding lands. Glenelendra Archmage, one of the best fairies, probably my favorite fairy. Very good card. You got Naxok Click. It's a cool card because it has an untap ability, and its untap ability lets you basically draw cards off your opponent's decks, which is kind of cool. Mistbind Click. That's got Champion. You can champion a fairy, and if you do, you get to tap all lands target player controls, and so you can do that at instant speed. So you can do that in someone's draw step if they're about to like combo off. Just flash it in, sacrifice a fairy, and tap all their lands so they can't do anything. Night Veil Sprite, just a surveil, not too shabby. Oona's Blackguard is a lot of rogues that are fairies, so it works very well in the deck. It makes all your rogues enter with a +1/+1 counter on them, and also with a creature with a +1/+1 counter on it, deals damage to a player. That player discards a card. So it works pretty well in the deck, just because there's a decent amount of rogues. You could also throw in like Metallic Mimic to help with this, to give all your, just on fairy to make sure every creature gets a +1/+1, and then they're all making people discard cards. Seems solid. You got Puppeteer Click, get to steal a nice creature from someone's graveyard, always good. Rankle, one of the best fairies printed now, just a lot of utility. Sower Temptation, you can steal something. Vendilion Click, you can just get rid of a pesky card out of someone's hand, or if you're getting flooded or something, you can get rid of a card from your hand that you don't want and draw a new card. Then you got stuff like Dream Spoiler Witches or Glenelendra Pranksters. Both of these are very on theme for both decks. Like, these cards are going to be played in both decks for sure, because they both are fairies and they both have stuff to do with when you cast spell during your opponent's turn. And so now we're going to switch over to cards that are very much the flash tribal stuff, like stuff that you're going to want to play if you're playing a lot of stuff in your opponent's turn. There's stuff like Fairies Tauntings. Whenever you play a spell during an opponent's turn, you may have each opponent lose a life. It's also a fairy tribal enchantment, which is kind of cool. Brineborn Cutthroat just keeps getting bigger. Stinging Lionfish, so you can tap some stuff down. Wave Break Hippocamp, draw more cards because drawing cards off your commander is not just enough. Isn't enough. Same thing with Slitherwisp. It works very, very well in this deck. Cunning Nightbonder makes it so your cards are uncounterable, which is huge. Plus they cost less. It's just a fantastic card in the deck. Emergence Zone, in case you get a handful of cards without flash. That way you can just kind of give them flash. And you could put Leyline of Anticipation and Vidalcan Orrery in the deck, but there's not really a need because most of the cards are going to be instant speed. Mutual Destruction, 1 mana to kill something, and you sack a creature, 1 mana to kill something at instant speed if you have a flash creature. That works really well in this. If you're going to be running this flash package, you're going to want to be able to have untapped lands in your opponent's turns. So you can throw in cards like Reset, sort of Feast and Famine, Unwinding Clock, stuff just so you can untap and have extra mana so you can cast stuff during your opponent's turns. That's always big. Then just some good flash cards. That's the last category here. Just good flash stuff. You got Dirge Bat, good way to kill stuff. Draining Whelk, which is a cool creature without a counterspell that just gets huge. Dream Eater, it's a cool card. It kind of fits the theme with the filling your graveyard. Like if you want to do graveyard shenanigans, because your commander does surveil, so might as well. Illusory Ambusher. This one is just a way to draw a ton of cards. Like say somebody swings in for lethal on you, like a 15 power creature. You just flash it in, jump block, draw 15 cards. Not too shabby. Jin-Gitaxias, because it's Jin-Gitaxias. It's always good. Liliana Standard Bearer. It's a great card to recover from board wipes, especially in a creature-heavy deck like this. Lockmere Serpent. It's just a cool card. Nimble Obstructionist. It's got the utility of having a stifle effect on it. A stifle that draws you a card, which is kind of cool. And otherwise, it's just a 3/1 flyer with flash. Notion Thief. One of the best cards in Commander, honestly. One of the best flash creatures there is. Just a way to steal all your opponent's card draw. It's really, really good. Especially when you get someone with, like, say somebody wheels and you flash it in. It's great. It's so good. Ophidian Eye. You have a lot of evasive flyers. You flash this in, you hit somebody, you get a draw card. Seems good. Sea Dasher Octopus, same thing. Snapcaster Mage, because it's Snapcaster Mage. I mean, it's probably one of the best. That probably is the best flash creature there is. Spectral Sailor is just a good card draw outlet. Starlit Mantle, good protection card. It's got flash. It's an enchantment, so your creature continues to have hexproof afterwards. It's solid. Stunt Double, flashing in a clone is always nice. You can do some cool shenanigans with that. Then you got the counterspell creatures like Teferi, Mage of Zalfir. Does Teferi actually counter? I don't think it counters. I think it just bounces. Oh no, it doesn't do either of those. It just makes it so your opponents can't cast spells at instant speed. But all your creatures, so all the fairies that you have in the deck that don't have flash now do. But then there's like Torrential Gearhulk, which can fetch like a counterspell, something out of your graveyard. Venser Shaper Savant, Voracious Great Shark. All of these really cool cards in the deck. You can even throw in Xerath Sand the Trickster, so that way you can just because you got evasive fairies. So wait, does Xerath Sand only let you take up rogues? I mean, even if he does, there's a lot of rogues in the deck. Yeah, but there's a lot of rogues in the deck because there's a lot of rogue fairies. So you could easily Xerath Sand off of a Bitter Blossom token and just steal something huge out of your opponent's graveyard. Because there is definitely some incidental mill inside fairies because they're also rogues. But yeah, that's what we got. So that's Nymris, Oona's Trickster. Very good fairy commander, very good flash commander. It's a cool card. I think it's definitely overcosted. If it was 4 mana, it would be significantly better. But at 5, I'm not sure how much play it's gonna see. But I think it's a good. I think it's not a bad deck. I think it's a cool card, and it's very, very good for fairies because it's very on theme. Because a lot of fairies are flash. It just works well with fairies. And at least it has Flash. That's big. That's a really big perk. So if you guys enjoyed this video, remember, comment down below if you're gonna build Nymris, and if you are, let me know if there's any cool cards that I didn't mention that you'd put into the deck, and if there's any cool cards that you thought of that I didn't mention, you can comment those down below too. So that way anyone that's looking at this video can see that and learn about those cards as well. Always good. And remember, if you want to buy any of these cards, TCG Player affiliate link is down below. You can support the channel via Patreon, and you can check out the giveaway. It's going to be linked down below, and it will also be like right here, like right now. You know you want this play mat. You know what? You want to play in a game with me. Just do it. Right here. Click on this video, and you'll get into it, and you get to see how to join the giveaway. And we'll see you guys next time. Peace out, everybody.